And we are live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here and around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and let's get started. So, here are today's top stories that we're going to discuss. First, we have here is Tesla is suing the state of California for keeping the lockdown up to this point, and what is Tesla going to do and so forth. We'll discuss it a little bit. Next, we have Amazon, who is being investigated by the US government in terms of the deaths of their employees regarding the pandemic. And third, we will be discussing about the situation in the restaurant industry. When will they open? What will happen? What would it look like once they open their business? And after that, we'll be talking about some local news from our backyard. Okay. So let's get started. So, cue in the intro. There you go. And we're back. So today is Friday, May 15th. So thank you for joining me today. So we have a lot of topics to discuss today. So without further ado, let's begin. So Tesla is suing the state of California, in particular the county of Alameda, for maintaining the closure of its operation. Now, according to the report, the Reuters saying that they're suing the state because of the continued shutdown of the plant. Now, obviously, the chief executive Elon Musk wants to reopen business so that they can resume production and deliver the sales to their respective customers. Now, on the other hand, Alameda is contesting that the safety measures has to be implemented properly before resuming operations. Now, whether it's a he said, she said, on one side, Tesla is saying that they already have plans on how to reopen their production, but there was no response from the county. On the other hand, the Alameda County Public Health Department is saying that they are communicating with the company and they're just working it out before they reopen. Now, Musk has gone to Twitter to complain and also threatened to leave the state if this were to persist. Now, what's ironic here is on a related news, days later, Tesla Musk defied the order by reopening their production line in Alameda. So he's contesting that according to the California governor, they already gave their instructions that they are allowing the manufacturing industry to resume during this crisis, while with the exception of what do you call this for a while. Right. There you go. Sorry for the disruption. Anyway, going back. So Tesla is contesting that the California governor has already uh, informed that the manufacturing industry can already resume. And if anyone was to be arrested, according to the tweet of Musk, that he should be the only one be arrested. I don't know if that's possible because if any individual were to violate the policy of resuming despite the lockdown, then everyone would be arrested. And not only that, he's threatening to leave, as mentioned, by putting pressures to the top officials, in this case, the governor himself. Now, if they were to leave, other states have already been trying to court him that they should open there and do business in other states. Now, whether anything can be done about it, I think sooner or later they will resume operations and they would be allowed officially. Now, on related news, Tesla has a manufacturing plant in China which already sold 3,635 units of their Model 3 last April, which was considerably significantly down as much as 64% compared to the previous month. Now, the Tesla has a plant in Shanghai, China, and we're able to produce as much as 10,000 units. So, due to the crisis, there was low demand for their Model 3 car. Speaking of electric cars, other startup companies or Tesla's wannabe are having difficulty sustaining their business in terms of uh, the domestic electric vehicle are struggling significantly since the energy vehicle sales have already dropped by as much as 43% compared to a year later. Now, there are many players involved in the electric vehicle industry. As much as 50 startups are at play here. Not taking into account the major players, the company Geely, that's Geely, state-owned uh, company, the FAW Group, FAW, as well as foreign companies like Tesla and Volkswagen. Now, according to one investor, an anonymous investor, he stated that those who had not launched mass production of their cars by last year would probably die. The outbreak is just going to accelerate their death. So meaning, if you haven't, started production of your vehicles, then you're going to have difficulty sustaining your business since demand for during this pandemic is at a critical low point. Now, one way to address those concerns is the government is stepping in by providing subsidies as well as tax breaks. Now, given said subsidies and tax breaks, not necessarily that it will be enough to sustain them in the long haul. So, other companies are doing drastic actions such as canceling performance bonuses, delayed payment on annual bonuses, as well as employee subsidies, salary cuts, as well as, in worst case scenarios, layoffs. Now, in terms of difficulty of raising funds, they're trying to find ways to attract investors. Now, obviously, uh, investors are more attracted to top tier companies like, let's say, Tesla. You're more apprehensive investing in a startup company in this difficult time. Now, other companies like Li Auto, or also known as CHJ Automotive, is turning to initial public offering in the United States to raise as much as $500 million. And while other companies have turned to state for additional funding. Now, next we have here, speaking of Amazon, if you're following our discussion last stream, I've already discussed in detail concerns the issue of Amazon having being investigated by the government. And here they are again. So according to a US general, they are asking Amazon to provide data regarding the deaths of their workers that are linked to COVID-19. Now, a group of 13 attorney generals is specifically asking them to provide the data in terms of how related are their deaths in terms of its workforce. Now, there were reports, as I mentioned last time, that I discussed that workers were let go because many of them, or some of them, have been let go due to their voicing concerns or pointing out their views that the inadequacy of their safety measures and protocols in terms of protecting their employees in the warehouses. And they were let go because of that. But Amazon is saying that they were let go because of uh, breaking protocols and providing an unsafe environment. That's why the Attorney General is asking Amazon to not retaliate against their workers if they voice their concerns. Well, I guess that's too late for some of those people. And Amazon stated that they are still committed to ensure safety in their workplace. So we have to wait and see what happens to this scenario. So I'll keep you updated in future videos. Now, on related news, speaking of COVID-19, if you're familiar, Dr. Fauci, the director of National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease in the United States, is stating that ending the restriction is premature, meaning opening business right away despite the uptake of cases being reported still can be critical. He is quoted saying that I think we're going in the right direction, but the right direction does not mean we have by any means total control of this outbreak. So we have to wait for clear signs of improvement in terms of significant decline in new infections. Now, according to our statistical data, as much as more than 1 million Americans have already been infected, and at least 80,000 people have been already killed, according to Reuters. Now, there are forecasts that more than 100, almost 150,000 people could die if social distancing is relaxed, which in some states they are already doing anyway, states like Arizona. So we have to see. It may be a case-to-case basis in terms of the different states, but I think social distancing is an effective tool to reduce the chance of communicating the virus to other people. Speaking of virus, I now segue to this one. I just recently included this in the discussion because I think it's going to be beneficial and helpful to everyone who's watching today's video. I was watching an interview in YouTube. You can check out the channel Asian Boss, wherein they were interviewing a professor, Woo Ju Kim, a leading expert on the coronavirus and infectious disease in South Korea, wherein he details about what the virus is, what do we need to know about it, what's the origin, and what can we do about it. So I'll give you some of the details. So he's concerned that a second wave of the outbreak will occur after the summer. Now, obviously, the virus is attacking people who are vulnerable in terms of their immune system. So typically in cold climates are more susceptible compared to countries that are having warmer climate. Now, what's important here is either a vaccine can be produced or be readily available for the mass public. It will take a majority of the population before everyone can be protected. Now, in terms of fatality, the fatality worldwide is already at up to 7%. What's surprising here that in Korea, their death rate is only up to a little over 2%. And they attributed to this by doing significant testing and testing as much as 15,000 testings per day. So there's a lot of people tested in a short span of time. And not only that, they also tested asymptomatic patients. So meaning people who don't have symptoms or showing symptoms of the virus are being tested regardless. So if they feel that they think they have the virus, they get tested either way. As he mentions later on that what's scary about this particular virus or strain is that some viruses show symptoms before they become infectious. But in this case, they become infectious 2 days before you show symptoms. So that's why prevention and social distancing is critical at this stage. Now he mentions that the COVID-19 is a type of virus that has been already occurring in years past. So another coronavirus that was mentioned is the SARS outbreak during 2003, the swine flu back in 2009, and as recent as the MERS outbreak during 2015. Now the problem here is the information dissemination or conspiracy theories about said viruses. So what we need to know is that the virus itself is a very small, minute particle that we can barely see it. He uses an example. Our eyes can only barely see a 1 millimeter object that's very small. A virus is 10,000 of a millimeter small. So meaning we can't see it with our bare naked eyes. One of its characteristics that a virus is that it can replicate itself on an external environment. That's why you need a host, whether it's humans or an animal. Now, in terms of what it looks like visually, it's a circular virus that it mutates as well as it can adapt. That's why it can transfer from one host to another very easily. Now, what's interesting here, what I found out to be insightful, that regardless if it's COVID-19, SARS, MERS, Ebola, that the genetic identity is similar or originated from bats. It shows 96% identity. So meaning it came from wild animals, from bats in particular. And the question here is, how was it that the virus from bats were transferred to humans? So he mentioned that there was an intermediate animal. In our case, they're speculating it could be a snake or pangolins that carried the virus, and then people ate those animals and were transferred to humans. Now, there were myths that was mentioned that, or conspiracy theories regarding the virus, that the China government created the said viruses, but which he contested that it is not true. Meaning it was from nature, meaning from said bad animals that communicated or transferred the disease to humans eventually. That's why it's crucial that he mentioned that it's important that to clarify said myths and clarify that uh, the, the data is backed up by actual research that is confirmed by scientists what is and is not factual. So leaders have to lead. Now he mentions that, which is kind of alarming, but it's in a way for us to be prepared in the future. He mentions that the increase of frequency is alarming, and that the effect of the virus is becoming more stronger. So let me give you an example. So in terms of frequency, if you notice the SARS outbreak, that was way back in 2003. The next outbreak was 6 years later, which was the swine flu. Then the next outbreak, 6 years later again, the MERS outbreak came. Then come to present period, which is 5 years later, we now have the COVID-19. But he's projecting or forecasting that in the next 4 years we might have another case or another outbreak, which is kind of alarming. So would this turn out to be a new norm for our society? The cycles becoming shorter and shorter to the point that every year we might have an outbreak regardless. And one thing he stated that this could have been avoided, and this can be avoided still, meaning we've been encroaching wild animals territory for such a long time, and we should protect their territory in terms of avoiding contact as much as possible. And obviously, one of the things that he mentioned, which makes sense, is to stop avoiding eating wild animals, because we don't know what type of viruses they have and they can communicate. And one thing that he mentions, which is kind of startling, now we've been encountering several outbreaks over the past few decades, right? That's only a few, right? Less than five viruses. But what we don't know is there are several thousands of viruses out there that we haven't even discovered yet. So exposing ourselves to nature, especially to wild animals, increases the chances of us communicating or contracting the disease. So it's up to us in the end on how to avoid such pandemic in the future. But for now, we have to deal with the situation as of the moment. Okay. So if you have any questions, or if you'd like to see the entire video, I'll leave a comment down below. I'm sorry, sorry, not a comment. I'll leave the link to the description for their entire video. So you can check them out later on. Now, speaking of food, when will restaurants or bars open for everyone? So whether it's here or in abroad, they're having difficulty sustaining their businesses because of continuing to shut down their businesses. Now, according to the National Restaurant Association, they estimate the restaurant industry is already losing as much as $80 billion and can go as high as $240 billion by end of the year. Now, some restaurants are already trying to find ways or pivoting to find new ways to generate revenue. Some have offered takeout and delivery, but to some it may not be enough. And they have said that they may not survive the crisis even if they open their businesses today. Now, what would opening a restaurant would look like? Same goes with any other businesses. They have to adjust based on the situation. Sorry. So some might look like you can only open at half capacity. Now, can businesses sustain that, or even restaurants do that? You have to wait and see. So you have to be creative in the new normal, so to speak. A good example is Black Sheep. It's a Hong Kong-based restaurant which had already resumed operations, and they've already provided a sort of playbook or guide on how to conduct or resume their operations in their respective countries. And for those businesses that are interested, you can download it online. It's readily available. Another company is reopening soon is Starbucks. Starbucks, sorry. They're planning to reopen 85% of their coffee shop by end of this week, and they're trying to maintain social distancing, so meaning cashless transaction as well as curbside pickup only. Now, sticking with the food industry, if you're familiar, Popeyes is going to continue their expansion despite the pandemic that is occurring. Now, they plan to open as much as 1,500 restaurants over the next decade, and they have stated that despite the crisis that they're encountering, it will be only temporary. Now, how temporary is that? We have to wait and see. Next we have here is Uber, who's approaching Grubhub. So they're planning to take over by offering them stock deals. A merger is beneficial for both of them so that they can catch up to the market leader, which is DoorDash. I don't think we have DoorDash here in our country. We only have Grab. Yes, I think Grab we only have here. They're still haggling over in terms of deals exchange how much is to be provided. Now, it's not yet certain whether that a deal can be done, but it's beneficial for both of them. Since the market leader, DoorDash, has 42% of the market, while Grubhub has only 28, and third is Uber with only 20%. So if they were to merge, they would be automatically the market leader in the food delivery industry. And one concern that the government is looking into in terms of should they allow the merger, because they have concerns regarding predatory practices that Uber has implemented, such as denying drivers a living wage, since technically uh, the people delivering the food are on a per project basis, so they can't be technically called regular employees. But apart from their partners, they're also exploiting their local restaurant partners in terms of deceptive tactics and extortion fees, and also controlling valuable customer information rather than relay this and help their other partners with their restaurant partners as well. Continuing, speaking of games, if you like playing games, you might be interested to find out that Nintendo is smashing Switch sales as well as the fastest selling game, which is Animal Crossing. So if you're a Nintendo lover, actually I have a Switch console which I bought years ago. Uh, the Kyoto-based company is stating that their profits during the fourth quarter period has soared to as much as 200% due to the high sales volume of their Switch console as well as the game Animal Crossing. Now, for those who are not familiar with the game Animal Crossing, it's similar to Minecraft. It's a world building simulating game. So it's not blocky like Minecraft, but it looks more, I would say cartoony, but more animated. So you have to check it out so you can see if you have a Switch console, you might like playing that game. Continuing. So they've already shifted 13 million units for the first 6 weeks. So that's a lot of units. They've already generated as much as 89.4 billion yen, and 21 million consoles have been sold. 14 or 15 million has been the original Switch console, and 6 million units was the Switch Lite version. Now, one problem that they're encountering right now is the shortages of their product due to the shutdown of their operations. But eventually, once the lockdown has been lifted, they are able to resume production and hopefully provide the customers the units. Finally, we'll be talking about some local news. And what's interesting here so far is Visa Philippines conducted a study on the Filipinos' readiness to go cashless, which was promising, so to speak. So in terms of consumer payment attitude, people are interested in cashless transaction, which makes sense, especially to those who already have credit card. They can easily transition to any other cards for payment. Actually, I like to use the example in Japan or even in Hong Kong. They use a Suica card wherein you can use the card for mass transport as well as buy products and as well as buy products in a convenience store. Now, I don't know if you can use that in major stores, but it does do away with cashless along the way. Now, Is it viable to do cashless here in the Philippines? Uh, it depends, so to speak. Typical cashless purchase are mainly used for traveling, for supermarket purchases, and retail purchase. So if you notice, those are three main purchases. But for most of our business who are small, medium scale businesses, even micro, so you still have to pay using cash. Now, is it a good model to pursue in terms of cashless transaction? Well, it's not so much about what is spent, but where it is spent on. So that what is propelling the cashless payment, especially with the resurgence of not resurgence, with the increased popularity of e-commerce. So, but even still, even with e-commerce, people are still apprehensive using cashless transaction. Even I is also apprehensive, meaning I would still prefer to pay cash on delivery rather than just pay online in terms of concerns on security and hacking of your information. Unless they can provide those such securities, then it's going to take some time before people can transition fully to cashless payment. Next is, if you're not familiar, Turnitin is opening its first office here in the Philippines. Now, Turnitin, for those who are not familiar, is the online plagiarism detection and educational feedback platform. So if you're in the academe, you should be familiar using Turnitin. So according to the Southeast Asia Regional Manager, Jack Brazel, they have already employed sales representative in Makati to cater to the local market. They soon plan open other areas in Cebu as well in Davao. Now they've already established a business presence here way back in 2013 by partnering with other academic institutions, meaning the demand is there. So it's just a matter of capitalizing of their services. And finally, uh, I found this interesting, so I wanted to share this one. So, in an article in Business World Online, they mentioned the Safe Six guide for the new normal in offices. Okay, so I like to show you this. So, for one, there you go. So, this is the Safe Six guide for the new normal in offices. So, I think this applies to any business facility. So, whether it's a mall, it's a residential unit, or commercial space. So the Safe Six guide, sorry, tongue twister, for the new normal offices was created by the Global Real Estate Services, Cushman and Wakefield. Okay, it's a guide for that should be followed. The new normal in offices. So there are 6 steps. So let's take a look at all the 6 steps. So the first is by preparing the building. So meaning the facility itself, whether it's a school, it's a mall, commercial or residential. So you need to coordinate with the landlords, setting policies, and informing the vendors what needs to be done before even opening. So planning is key. Now the second part is communicating with the workforce. So preparing the workforce, what the office rules should be, uh, decide which workers you need to return. So maybe do a scheme that half of the workforce can come in on even days, then the other half on odd days. I don't know, but you want to keep the workforce at a minimum, a skeleton. Then the third here is we have controlling access. So we're in the step covers in terms of accessing public spaces. So meaning maintaining distance, checking temperatures, ensuring that the facility is safe for people to go in and out. And then fourth is the social distancing plan. So again, so if you're in an elevator falling in line, then there should be, well, I could just imagine if there's a lot of people going in and out, the queue would go outside of the building. I don't know how's that going to happen, but so studying foot traffic patterns and installing shields if found necessary. And then fifth here is this makes much sense in terms of reducing touch point and increasing cleaning. So in terms of leveraging procurement organization that makes ensures that the cleanliness is maintained So hand sanitizer, disinfectant wipes, and other cleaning supplies should be utilized. So whether using toilet facilities, uh, push button in the elevator, handrails in escalators, all those contact points where people normally touch along the way. And finally, in number six is communicating confidence. Now, obviously, this has to be communicated clearly across all stakeholders. So, obviously, it's not going to work without the cooperation of every individual. It's not just enough that you have a good plan here, but it's the cooperation of everyone. A good example is how they implemented this in Taiwan as well as in Korea. So, they've been having success in terms of, controlling the outbreak. So, if it works for them, maybe it could work for us, especially wearing masks. Actually, I that's one thing I forgot to mention in the interview with Dr. Kim earlier, that wearing masks is not 100% foolproof, but it's close enough. Uh, Actually, particle microns smaller than zero point 0.5 can only pass through. So, meaning unless it's an aerosol virus, then it's unlikely that you will contract the virus. So wearing mask is critical for protection, not just for yourself, but it makes sense and courtesy to other people that you're wearing it so that you don't infect others and others can infect you. Anyway, so if you have any questions, so let's take a look here. Do you have any, before we conclude today's session, let's take a look here. Yes, creating a vaccine, Mr. Selangil, is the only solution. But one problem that we're encountering, uh, if you if you've watched the last video, is that creating a vaccine takes a long time. It takes as much as, with the best case scenario, according to the interview, could take as much as a year. And you know, there's no certainty that a vaccine can indeed be produced by then. What they're doing instead is looking for existing drugs that maybe can have the same similar effect, similar to how Viagra was created. It was supposed to be intended for heart condition, but it has a side effect, right? So we have to wait and see. We have to be patient. The process, it takes a long time, so we have to be careful and mindful in terms of what is being news being spread, especially fake news. When they say they found a vaccine and such, it has to go through a vetting process so that we can ensure the safety of the people, not just the healthy one, but also the ones that need it the most. Okay. And yes, in terms of slowing it down, actually, what seems sensible and it's commonplace, like in Japan, is wearing a mask. The mask is a very powerful tool. Sorry, there you go. So the mask is a very powerful tool in terms of preventing dispersion, whether you sneeze, you cough, and when other people do that. So that's why they wanted to maintain a 1 meter distance, so that that's the distance when you cough can travel as far as a 1 meter. And if you don't have any protection, then it can travel even further, especially in an enclosed space. So it can travel as further than 1 meter. So you have to be mindful of that. So I guess that would be the new norm in our case, meaning our new access, apart from wearing our office clothes, uniforms, and such, we have to wear a mask when we go outside of our houses. Anyway, so if you have any questions regarding today's video, you can check out in the link in the description below. And for questions, you can leave your comment down below. And as always, thank you for joining me today. And as always, I'll see you again next week for more news, videos, and stay updated. Don't forget to hit the notification bell update to stay updated for the latest videos and news. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time. Same time, same channel. Don't forget. Oh, hello, Huge. Thank you for joining us today. Anyway, so let's cue in the outro. Where is it? Where's the end live? End stream, sorry. Are you sure you want to end your stream? Yes.